Good evening. We begin tonight with a barrage of bullets at a North York housing complex. The gunfire overnight barreling into people's homes,
rattling residents who feared for their lives. And when the dust settled, a 23-year-old man was dead. Police now working to figure out who could be so brazen. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live at the scene tonight on Cherokee Boulevard. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, Toronto police are asking for the public's help after a 23-year-old man was gunned down in a hail of bullets just outside a North York condo complex. So many shots were fired outside the Woodfinch Mews condominiums. Stray bullets pierced several windows on the second floor, smashing into mirrors and fire hose cabinets right outside people's units.
Boom! That's it. A boom.
It was a lot of gunshots. It was like...
In the lobby below, another 7 shots slammed through entryway windows and everything behind them. The front door completely blown out.
I literally heard, oh my God, someone's been shot, like right outside my door.
This resident says it was just before 3 a.m. when she and her 5 children heard the gunfire.
They said, "Mommy, are we going to die tonight?" I said, "I don't even know." I told them it was fireworks. I didn't make them believe that it was a gunshot, because at this time, when I opened my window and I looked, I had noises. Some people were crying, some were shouting. I was like, oh, what has happened?
As she tried to reassure her children all was well, they heard these ominous words.
I said, they shot him, they shot him, they shot him.
By light of day, you can see police conducting their investigation. More than 50 evidence markers scattered across the parking lot.
Several witnesses called in and reported that there were 2 suspects shooting another male victim. Officers did respond to this, and they located a male victim with gunshot wounds. That male was transported to a nearby trauma center. However, he was pronounced deceased.
The victim, a 23-year-old man.
I remember hearing the mom, she was like, oh, I'm praying for you, my son, or something like that, like her son was just dying. And then the ambulance came, and then they said there was no pulse.
Investigators believe this was a targeted attack, but residents say this does little to allay their concerns about living in the area, especially given how far afield of the victim many of the shots landed.
I feel not safe. I can't believe it happened in my neighborhood, in my building. A little bit scared. It's very close to my place.
I'm scared. I don't even feel like coming out of my house. My kids, my son is graduating today. He's scared. He said, "Mommy, am I going to die today? Where are we going? I can't come outside." I said, "No, you have to come outside. Police are here for your safety."
And while police believe the victim was the intended target, they say they do not know what led to a shooting that caused so much damage and so much harm. Police have not released descriptions of the suspects. Investigators say they do not know if the victim lived in the building, although we do hear from area residents that his mother lived here. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Toronto Police at 33 Division or Crime Stoppers if you want to remain anonymous. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. And Toronto police also investigating after a body was found in a West End parking lot.
The discovery was made early this morning. CTV's Sean Thong is live with the latest. Sean.
Michelle and Nathan, the body was found inside of a taxi cab parked in one of the spots behind me early this morning. Many of the neighbors in the area said they didn't hear anything overnight, but I briefly spoke with the person who says he discovered the body.
A body discovered inside a car in a parking lot on Ossington just north of Bloor. This man says he made the discovery.
Sitting there like perfectly like this, and his head was tilted to one side.
Paul says he saw the body of a man who looked to be in his 50s sitting in the driver's seat with his seatbelt on, adding there were no signs of injury, but it looked like he'd been there for hours. He says he asked a nearby woman to call 911.
So I said, "Hey, miss, I think this guy had a heart attack." And she ran to there and phoned, and in minutes the police were here sealing it all off.
Toronto police closed off the parking lot just before 9 a.m. for the investigation.
It's upsetting, to see somebody, that there's a body outside.
Derek Pean's apartment backs onto the parking lot, and he shot some video of the police investigating.
The investigator keeps pointing basically to the driver's side window.
But he says he didn't hear anything last night or this morning. Homicide attended the scene, but at this time they've not taken over the investigation as police are waiting for an autopsy. Many in the area didn't know what had happened.
I've heard that somebody may have passed away or something, but that's what I heard.
The parking lot was closed for much of the day while some waited for their cars to be returned.
I feel so sad about all this.
And I'm very tired because I was here since 9 o'clock.
Co-op cabs confirmed that it was one of their cars, but they do not know if the body is one of their drivers. They said they are cooperating with police.
And the parking lot opened up just after 3 o'clock today. Now, police have said they are treating this as a suspicious death, but as we mentioned, homicide has not taken over the investigation. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Sean. Just ahead, a late afternoon announcement that will prevent a strike by WestJet's aircraft mechanics. We'll tell you why strike action is off without a deal being reached.
But first, a live look outside. The sun shining brightly all day long and into the evening hours now. A noticeable cool down in the air, but some might find it much more comfortable depending on what you're doing outside and how much you like the heat, which, by the way, is due to return eventually. Let's bring in Jessica Smith with a look at the current conditions. What do you see in this hour, Jess?
It is, still really nice out there, but you're right, it is noticeably different. But if you're outside at any point today, the sun's still really strong, still really high UV index. So despite it not being a very seasonal day, you can still feel the warmth if you were in that direct sunlight. We're benefiting from some high pressure today and tomorrow before another system rolls in, but we are slowly but surely getting warmer as we head throughout the end of the week and into the weekend. Right now, kind of around the Golden Horseshoe in that low 20 range. Some people kind of in the upper teens as we wrap up our Thursday, but temperatures will start to rebound as a wind direction change takes place as we head through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. Through the islands, through Pearson, 21 apiece. Tonight, though, a single-digit low, a little fresh. I'll have more on your forecast coming up. Right now, back to Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Jess. Political leaders gathered outside the site of the Ontario Science Centre at a rally to save it from being permanently shut down.
As even more Torontonians have come forward to pledge millions towards repairing its roof. CTV's John Woodward joins us now outside Toronto City Hall with more. John.
Michelle, the opposition to that sudden closure of the Science Centre shows no signs of letting up, from councillors here at City Hall to a raucous rally outside the Science Centre site.
Call it a symbolic act. That's NDP MPP Kristen Wong-Tam taking down a section of fence outside Ontario's Science Centre.
Belongs to Doug Ford. Belongs to the children and the families in this community.
The fences erected in a hurry Friday as the provincial government declared the building unsafe, even though the engineers' report they relied on gave them other options to keep the building open.
This is demolition by neglect.
NDP leader Marit Stiles told a rally she believed the Science Centre didn't have to close.
We all know Ford's motive here. It's just to justify his mega spa, his vanity project at Ontario Place.
Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie taking it one step further.
I'm committed to undoing his shady backroom deals and root out any of Doug Ford's cronies who have gotten rich along the way.
The shocking closure galvanizing support. Renowned artificial intelligence pioneer Jeffrey Hinton promising to donate $1 million.
I think it's a wonderful place.
And AI startup founder Aidan Gomez, whose dad brought kids to the Science Centre in the 1990s, pledged $250,000.
It was such an exciting place to be. It was so inspiring.
With other donations, the total is already almost $3 million. The catch, the Science Centre has to stay put.
Flemington Park is a challenged neighborhood. They don't have a lot of opportunities, and this is such a wonderful opportunity for them.
The City of Toronto also exploring options.
It's their building, but it's our land. And that if they are intent on bringing a wrecking ball to the Science Centre, that we have an opportunity to intervene.
Curiously, city staff confirmed to CTV News the Science Centre had applied for a building permit in May for a sectional roof and roof deck replacement. The province said in a statement that's for an isolated section in the Ontario Science Centre Rainforest Exhibit area just in Building C. The application made before the completion of the final engineering reports.
I think it's crazy to close it. I was very disappointed when I heard the news.
Science Centre supporters hoping all the politics can take a backseat to actually fixing the building.
Toronto City Council hasn't started debating its motion on the Science Centre yet, though Councillor Matt Lowe is floating one idea, saying about the request by Ontario to find a new site for as little as 50,000 square feet. He says just fix one of the three buildings that's the least damaged, and they'll get a space many times bigger than that, possibly for cheaper. Reporting live from City Hall, I'm John Woodward. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, John. Still ahead, tonight's the night, Biden and Trump in the same room. The world watching We have a preview of the highly anticipated U.S. presidential debate in minutes. Well, Toronto police have identified suspects in a pair of sexual assault investigations, and they're asking for the public's help in finding them. Police say a woman was sexually assaulted in the Dundas and Jones area just over a month ago. It's alleged this man, 34-year-old Samuel Ampong of no fixed address, approached the victim from behind, assaulted her, and fled. The Toronto Police Service Sex Crimes Unit believes other victims may be out there. Anyone with information is asked to call police, but if you spot Ampong, you're advised to call 911 and not approach. And Toronto police are searching for this suspect in connection with a sexual assault reported this week in Midtown. Just before 10 Tuesday morning, investigators say 31-year-old Jamor Walker White of Toronto assaulted a victim near Yonge and Broadway Avenue north of Eglinton. If you know where he is, investigators ask you to either get in touch or call Crime Stoppers. Firefighters in Kawartha Lakes were still putting out hotspots today after a massive house fire. It also impacted nearby structures and vehicles.
It happened in a mobile home park north of Lindsay yesterday afternoon. This is what it looked like when the flames broke out. Firefighters say they got the call just after 1 p.m. They believe a propane tank exploded in a garage, and the fire quickly spread to a modular home, causing about $500,000 in damage. A pickup truck in the driveway was also destroyed. Otherwise, no injuries were reported, as officials suggest the material that ignited was handled improperly. Here in the city, emergency crews responded to a fire call at a residential building in the Avenue and Lawrence area today. Toronto Fire says it was alerted to smoke in an apartment around 10:30 a.m., but there weren't significant flames at the scene. One person did require medical attention.
Police are sharing the results of a years-long human trafficking investigation that spanned across the province. OPP say they received information in October of 2022 about suspected human trafficking. As a result, they say they were able to identify 5 victims and charge 6 suspects with a combined 81 charges. Quantities of cash and drugs, as well as a gun, was also seized. Police services from Toronto and other GTA services contributed to the investigation.
There's a new push by Toronto police to deal with the recent wave of gun violence in the city.
Today, police flagged several common and disturbing trends they've noticed in a number of gun crimes. CTV's Mike Walker has the details.
In the wake of recent deadly shootings across the city, Toronto police revealing alarming gun violence statistics, up 74% this year.
When you see shootings that are up, you see our shooting homicides up, it is problematic.
So far this year, there have been 24 shooting deaths, compared to 9 the same time last year.
Overall, shooting incidences in Toronto have been decreasing since 2019, with gun violence in our communities reaching a 10-year low in 2023.
A troubling trend police say is the ages of the suspects. Many now are teenagers. Earlier this week, police charged a 14-year-old boy with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 7 counts of attempted murder in connection to a mass shooting that saw 5 members of a men's soccer team shot in the parking lot at North Albion Collegiate.
What drives a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid to pick up a firearm and then use it? There are, gang and turf wars out there, and the composition of these gangs are getting younger and younger.
And that's due to decades of purposeful disinvestment.
The executive director of the Toronto Youth Cabinet is calling on the city to create more opportunities and programs for young people.
We've been vigorously calling for more youth employment to ensure that young people have access to meaningful and gainful employment opportunities, more access to safe spaces.
The ongoing conflict in the tow truck industry also contributing to the spike in gun violence. Recent incidents include arson and brazen daytime shootings at retail plazas. Police reporting 24 tow truck-related shootings or discharges this year. That represents 12% of the total number of shootings across the city.
Conflicts in the GTA have historically been about territorial disputes and rivalries, that this issue involves a very, very small segment of the towing industry.
Prompting police to launch a system-wide gun violence strategy that includes a tow truck task force.
This proactive preventative response also ensures that officers are equipped with the latest updates when engaging with community and businesses.
We are deploying resources strategically to address these violent crimes.
So far this year, police have seized 363 firearms, which have resulted in nearly 500 arrests and more than 2,200 charges. Mike Walker, CTV News.
An intelligence report reveals Canadian lawyers may play a key role in money laundering and crucial information about the scope. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin has this exclusive story.
The case of Ronald Pelletier marked their legal first in BC. He laundered $31 million from clients he knew were under investigation for securities fraud in the U.S. He used 20 burner phones, email aliases, and collected $900,000 in legal fees. In 2023, he became the first lawyer disbarred in BC for knowingly participating in a money laundering scheme. An intelligence report that doesn't name names suggests Pelletier isn't the only Canadian lawyer linked to dirty money. A collaboration between CTV News and the Investigative Journalism Foundation obtained documents by Canada's financial watchdog, FINTRAC. It reveals 92 transactions over a 3-year period suspicious enough to be reported to police and national security agencies that involve the legal profession and methods like shell companies that could be used by professional money laundering networks, including biker gangs or drug cartels.
So if you're a trusted person, you're in an ideal position to defraud.
Michael Levy is a Cardiff University professor whose extensive research on money laundering is cited in the FINTRAC report. He says lawyers can be victims, facilitators, or primary offenders.
Not many lawyers start off as crooks, but some become crooks.
Lawyers' legitimate duties can be exploited to launder money through real estate transactions, luxury goods, and cars. But while banks, casinos, and real estate brokers are required by federal law to report suspicious transactions to FINTRAC, lawyers are not. They're self-governed. Their law societies set up anti-money laundering rules and conduct investigations. In a statement, the Federation of Law Societies of Canada says it shares information with Finance Canada, and that law societies have powers and tools, including the power to compel production of information protected by solicitor-client privilege that far outstrip those available to FINTRAC and law enforcement agencies. But some experts and an international watchdog argue lawyers do have to be part of a national reporting system in order to properly fight money laundering. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
The federal Liberals rolled out the next phase of their dental care program, expanding eligibility to more Canadians. But it comes as the party faces growing questions about its leader and whether he has the support of caucus. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has the details.
Health Minister Mark Holland leading a Liberal push from Winnipeg today.
We're so excited to say to families who have children 18 and under, and to persons with disabilities, that service is now here for you.
Thank you all for being here. That same message on display in several cities across the country. Ministers focused on a team message with a clear political purpose.
They're probably still shell-shocked from losing the by-election in Toronto St. Paul's, and they're trying to do damage control by talking about something other than the defeat that they just realized.
But that defeat put them on the defense today.
Is this showing that your party is potentially out of touch with Canadians?
I think it's important to continue to speak with Canadians in every community across this country. But I also think it's the opportunity to double down, to demonstrate results.
The Liberal team doubling down on supporting their Prime Minister in the face of growing questions.
Everyone in caucus has a lot more work to do listening to Canadians, constituents, including the Prime Minister. I speak for Manitoba caucus that we are 100% supportive of the Prime Minister going forward.
But it's the support of Canadians his party is struggling with, trailing in the polls with just over a year before the next election.
Internally, there has to be some soul searching about the strategy, soul searching about what the message is, and the message of change in order to engage Canadians, and soul searching in terms of the leadership.
The NDP also facing pressure in the polls, as well as questions about whether to hold on to their deal to prop up the Liberals until 2025.
But right now, that's not a decision we're making today.
Now, the Conservatives are trying to capitalize on what has been a rough week for the Liberals and are increasing calls for an early election. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Ottawa.
In the Middle East, Israel stormed a neighborhood in Gaza City today, ordering people to move south. The Palestinian Civil Emergency Service reported at least 7 people were killed, but said there may be more casualties. In Khan Yunis, 21 seriously ill children prepared to leave Gaza in the first medical evacuation since May. That is when the Rafah crossing was shut down. Today, the young hospital patients left for the Kerem Shalom crossing and were to travel to Egypt and beyond for treatment. Israel says 68 people, children, and their escorts were allowed out. The evacuation was done in coordination with the World Health Organization and 3 American charities. The head of Gaza's hospitals says more than 25,000 patients in the territory require treatment abroad and says the Kerem Shalom route cannot serve as an alternate to the Rafah crossing.
Canada has imposed sanctions on 7 Israeli settlers and 5 entities, including settler organizations. Foreign Affairs says it remains very concerned about extremist settler violence in the West Bank, not only for the significant impact it has on Palestinians, but also on prospects for lasting peace. The measures prohibit dealings related to the individuals and bars them from Canada. Violence in the Israeli-occupied territory was at more than a 15-year high in 2023. It surged after the war between Israel and Hamas began. Ottawa imposed sanctions on 4 settlers last month.
Canada's military is preparing to help get our citizens out of Lebanon if the situation there worsens. The Defense Department says the armed forces will provide assistance if full-scale fighting breaks out between Israel and Hezbollah. Global Affairs issued a warning this week urging Canadians to leave Lebanon while they still can. In 2006, Canada moved about 15,000 people out of the country during fighting between the two sides. U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will be facing off tonight in a high-stakes and historic debate.
CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon's in Atlanta and tells us what Canadians can expect.
In Atlanta, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will face off, trying to convince skeptical U.S. voters to give one of them a second chance at a second term. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Concerned about climate change, you got to go with Biden. Concerned about women's rights, you got to go with Biden.
As President Biden's record will be front and center, a chance to show voters at 81 he's still capable of leading, looking to cast Trump as dangerous and a threat to democracy, mocking Trump's criminal convictions on giant billboards in Atlanta. Biden will frame the January 6th Capitol attack as a seismic moment for America, reminding voters of the chaos.
You fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
For Trump, he has to earn voters' trust, his character and temperament under the microscope, as his advisors urge him to stay on message and attack Biden's handling of inflation, the economy, and immigration. And watch for this Trump ad that will air during the debate.
Do you think the guy who was defeated by the stairs, got taken down by his bike, lost a fight with his jacket, and regularly gets lost, makes it 4 more years in the White House?
Both trying to get under each other's skin and to avoid a repeat of their shouting match last time.
Will you shut up, man? Listen, who is on your
New rules. The mics will be muted when the other candidate speaks, and no live studio audience. Just the 2 men, alone on stage, bitter rivals, trying to break through to voters who've tuned out or are disillusioned with both of them.
For a lot of these undecided voters, Biden and Trump are the same old, same old. They want to hear something new.
With only 90 minutes to shake up the race, can either candidate improve their numbers and sway voters? After tonight, they'll both hit the campaign trail. Joy Malbon, CTV News, Atlanta.
Now to good news for anyone planning to fly with WestJet. Word late today, a potential strike has been averted.
A deal has not been reached between the airline and their mechanics union. However, the government has stepped in to stop a strike. Federal Labor Minister Seamus O'Regan announced this afternoon that he was invoking his authority to direct both sides into binding arbitration. Hundreds of WestJet mechanics were prepared to strike as of tomorrow if a deal couldn't be reached. Union members voted overwhelmingly to reject the tentative deal earlier this month and had opposed WestJet's request for intervention by the country's labor tribunal. The union calls the move unprecedented in modern times, but says it has directed its members to refrain from any unlawful job action.
Coming up on CTV News, preparing for the first major festival of the summer, a look at the Pride Parade route map along with all the road closures to help you navigate and celebrate.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, will you be looking for a used car in the future? If so, keep a close eye on the advertised price. Some dealers are now listing two prices, a lower price if you finance and thousands more if you pay cash. Why is this happening? I'll have my reports just ahead.
Maybe you're taking an extra long weekend, and if you are, temperature-wise, it's not too bad. We do have some unsettled weather heading in towards our Saturday, but not a wash of a weekend by any means. So pretty nice to get out towards the cottage as we return to a more seasonal forecast. Coming up, I'll have a full look at the next 7 days as we settle into the end of June and say hello to July. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
If you're planning to buy a used car, you should know some dealerships are changing the way they advertise the cars they're selling.
In Ontario, dealers must use all-in price advertising, meaning the price you see is the price you get, but some aren't following the rules. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. It used to be cash was king, and you could get a better deal if you paid for a car in full. But now many dealers want you to finance your purchase so they can make more money. It's led to a new way to advertise cars that consumers need to watch out for. If you're in the market for a used car, you may see something different when you look at dealer advertisements. Instead of one price, you may see two, a cash price and a finance price. In this case, the cash price is $2,000 higher.
There's a huge incentive for dealerships to get the consumer to finance. And if they choose to pay cash, the dealership could be missing out on a lot of profit.
The Used Car Dealers Association of Ontario says selling a car this way is allowed as long as the pricing in the ad is clear and transparent.
It's not illegal for a dealer to sell a vehicle for a cash price at a different level than a finance price. But as OMVIC has indicated, it really comes down to disclosure.
OMVIC told CTV News dealers offering pricing options for finance and cash purchases are required to disclose both prices in their ads, not hidden below on a different page or in fine print. But Car Help Canada says many dealers are doing just that. This ad shows a price of almost $26,000, but in fine print in the body of the ad it says, for cash purchases, an extra $2,000 is necessary. This ad shows a price of $37,400, but later in the ad it says the cash price is $39,000. Under Ontario rules, that's not allowed.
If you go to the dealership and the dealership tells you, well, sorry, to get this price, you need to finance, that dealership is breaking the law.
Car Help Canada says anyone pricing vehicles this way should be reported to OMVIC. There are more than 8,000 dealers in Ontario. The Used Car Dealers Association says if you aren't happy with one dealer, find another one.
It really comes down to the consumer's ability to shop around and get their best deal with what they're searching for. They will find it.
And OMVIC says it's constantly investigating car dealers and last year laid 1,600 charges against those who were not following the rules. It says it's taking stronger actions against repeat offenders and issuing higher penalties. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, talking weather now, and I admit this morning I thought it wasn't going to be the best of days, but it really changed. What a great one.
You know what? I was loving it this morning.
Yeah?
I like
cool.
when it's sun and it's fresh, it's kind of comfortable as long as you're not, you're not dressed for it. But I will say my kids are in agreement with you. They were whining, we're cold, we're cold. I said, it's going to warm up a little.
Slow and steady race. If you were in the shade, it definitely, you notice the difference. In the last few days, even last week, you were sweating even in the shade. Today, a much different story. So if you were walking in the sun, it felt really nice. If you were in the shade, Nathan and the kids were right, it was a little bit fresh. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Sunshine, a welcome change. We had some messy weather. It's been a bit of a rock and roll type of week as we kind of wrap up the month of June, but It is beautiful. It is calm right now. That northerly flow to the wind really making a difference. We'll see wind direction change overnight and into the day tomorrow. We start a slow but steady climb back towards a much more seasonal point. But for those who don't like that heat, that humidity that really did pack a punch last week, this has been a welcome change. Sitting at 21 right now. We had a hint of a humidex earlier at feeling 22, but really and truly we're sitting in that low 20 mark. Everybody really across the province experiencing this cool down after that rain came through and the cold front to kind of shift things a little bit. Into the evening, some single digit lows. We're not quite into that frost running territory, but it's a little fresh out there. We're sitting at just 6 through Bancroft, 6 in Peterborough, 9 here in the city, 7 through Waterloo region, but into the day tomorrow, a nice rebound. We'll get closer to seasonal, not quite there, but the bit of a humidex we will have will help it feel closer to that seasonal norm. 23 for us here in the city and really right across the board between about 22 and 25 degrees. The bulk of that system we had continues to track in towards Atlantic Canada. Behind it, 2 systems of high pressure north and south of us, keeping it fairly calm, quiet, cool, collected as we step in towards the end of the day. That's before the next system rolls in to bring some messy weather. So for the rest of our evening, it's beautiful out there. If you have sports tonight, I know a lot of people are wrapping up the school season, maybe having a barbecue outside. Fantastic. Into the day tomorrow, lots of high pressure. Again, those 2 areas of high pressure north and south, keeping us nice and clear. Heading into the early evening, it starts as cloud cover. So you're fighting, maybe you're taking off early, heading out to a cottage, you're going to visit friends. It is going to be a cloudy evening, but a relatively dry one. The active weather really comes in overnight. So around 3 a.m., we'll see the first wave of it. And then as we get into our Saturday, it's waves off and on, heavy at times, along with the risk of some thunderstorm activity. It's not an all-day rain affair, but a good idea if you do have outdoor plans to bring some water-resistant gear or just maybe make some alternative plans. The good news is as we head in towards Sunday, it starts to taper off. And if you're heading, say, to the Pride Parade, or maybe you're just spending the day outside to enjoy the long weekend, it is going to be beautiful. Temperature-wise, through your Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, fairly seasonal. Canada Day Monday, beautiful, 24 and a whole lot of sunshine. And we really do step into the beginning of July in a very seasonal and mostly sunny way. Michelle, I'll send things back to you.
Thank you, Jess. All right, speaking about what's ahead, Toronto's Pride Parade takes place this Sunday, and road closures for related events will be in place starting tomorrow. The city says Church Street will be closed from Dundas to Hayden starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow for the Pride Toronto Street Fair. It will reopen Monday, while parts of Bloor, Yonge, Gould, and Church Streets will be temporarily shut down as of 7 p.m. for the Trans March. Several other Pride events are on the schedule ahead of the Pride Parade on Sunday, which will run along Bloor, Yonge, Dundas, and Bay.
Also tonight, new techniques to transplant vital organs and save lives. Details on a medical breakthrough that may one day eliminate wait lists. Health is next.
The new transplant technique was first done at London Health Sciences Centre in April.
A very sick patient in dire need of a liver, and we're quite thrilled with the way the liver performed in the operating room and such a very smooth post-operative course.
Dr. Anton Scaro, Director of Liver Transplant Surgery, calls the new technique normothermic regional perfusion, or NRP.
I think this liver, using our own process in the past, would not have been suitable for transplantation. And so the normothermic regional perfusion technique was able to rescue this liver and make it suitable for transplantation.
He says transplant teams must wait for either brain death or circulatory death after life support is removed from the donor, with a high degree of organ deterioration occurring as circulation stops.
The injury to the organs is substantial. There's no or low blood flow, poor oxygen delivery to those organs.
NRP uses a pump to keep the organs for transplant oxygenated and can even introduce medications to reduce organ rejection.
So the patient's venous blood from the abdomen is drained into this reservoir, at which point it is pulled out of the reservoir by a pump and propelled through this oxygenator here.
We isolate the abdominal organs and then perfuse the organs using this portable heart-lung machine. This restores blood flow, oxygen, and nutrients to the organs, thereby repairing them reconditioning them.
Right now, only abdominal organs, liver, kidneys, and pancreas can be treated this way, but eventually the team hopes to use NRP for the heart and lungs as well.
This is going to absolutely increase the number and quality of the organs that we have available for transplantation.
And Dr. Scaro foresees a day when we can even eliminate the waiting lists for organ transplants. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
This is a criminal act. It is violent, it is targeted, it is organized.
It was a dream job for the former waitress who always knew she could make a difference.
And I remember they asked me, why homicide? Like, why do you want to come here? And I said, that's like asking a Texas teenager why she wants to be Miss America.
Pauline Gray never got a sash and crown for catching callous killers, but she did earn the ring for putting them behind bars. On a sunny afternoon, just days before retirement, the seasoned detective took me on a stroll through Kensington Market, the gritty streets in the heart of the city, her place of refuge.
I literally would drive over to this coffee shop, I would get myself a coffee, and I would walk the streets of Kensington Market and just sort of process what it was I needed to do.
Gray joined Toronto Police in 1988, and within months she was recruited for a sting to find Paul Bernardo.
I was decoying for the Scarborough rapist. They asked if I would do that. Yes, of course.
15 years later, when it was still rare to see female detectives on the force,
be ever prudent of who you open your doors to.
A door opening for this mother of two young girls to join the homicide squad.
No greater honor will ever be bestowed on an officer than when they are entrusted with the investigation of the death of a human being.
Gray was involved in more than 100 murder investigations.
At this point, we only have a portion of Ms. Gourmet's body.
In 2013, Regat Gourmet's torso found on a trail near the Humber River. Gray used her toothbrush to identify her, but what came back on the bristles was a breakthrough: the DNA of Gourmet's killer and that of his second murder victim.
It's the yoke of responsibility that was crushing. Because if you made a mistake, you could be the reason that a killer was going to go free.
And sometimes, despite her best work, they did.
I've got you on camera. Somewhere, somehow, in the hundreds of hours we're about to look at, we'll find you in there.
Hu Chang Mao, a new immigrant stacking oranges on Girard, pierced by a stray bullet in 2008.
And I do know who did it. Like, I do know who did it. I just can't get there. And I think we failed him. Not the homicide squad. I would say collectively, we failed him.
Gray left homicide in 2015 after 11 years in the unit, since earning 3 more promotions, overseeing sex crimes, the hold-up squad, and forensics, a staunch advocate for domestic violence survivors, and mentorship, a non-negotiable, she says, to young female officers.
Pauline, thank you for your remarkable service.
Now hanging up her badge after more than 36 years, I asked the staff superintendent what she'd tell that young cadet.
Have faith. Have faith in yourself. I was a waitress. I have a grade 12 education. I have no post-secondary, and I'm the chief of detectives in the largest city in the country. It doesn't get better than that.
Beatrice Faisman, CP24.
It's going to be a bombastic Friday.
Shaggy is in the city and he'll stop by our studio before his long weekend concert, which you could win tickets to.
That's on the next CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
Several witnesses called in and reported that there were 2 suspects shooting another male victim. Officers did respond to this, and they located a male victim with gunshot wounds.
Ford's motive here. It's just to justify his mega spa, his vanity project at Ontario Place.
What drives a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid to pick up a firearm and then use it? There are, gang and turf wars out there, and the composition of these gangs are getting younger and younger.
Canadian companies plan their smallest price increases in more than 3 years, according to a new survey by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. That will come as welcome news to Canadian consumers and also to the Bank of Canada, which is trying to bring inflation down. The CFIB said that on average, companies surveyed said they plan to raise prices by about 2.5% over the next year. That would be the most modest pace of expected increases since March of 2021. Let's take a look at some of the closing markets numbers for today. The Canadian dollar traded up slightly to 73.02 cents US. West Texas Intermediate crude oil gained 84 cents to $81.74 per barrel. And Western Canadian Select, the Canadian grade of heavy oil, lost 12 cents a barrel to $66.38 US. As for stock markets, the S&P TSX Composite Index in Toronto closed up by almost 150 points to finish at 21,942 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Paul Bagnall at BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.